So the US Supreme Court decision overturning Roe versus Wade has meant abortion is now illegal for many Americans. It's likely that domestic violence perpetrators will use this ruling as part of violence and coercion against their victims. In Australia, we know that abortion still sits in the criminal code in Western Australia, and we also know that it's inaccessible for many people due to the cost and the location. So just interested in thoughts around how we support people who are affected by reproductive coercion.
Can I come to you on that first?
Could you repeat it? Because I've lost the mic and I can't hear.
So
just repeat.
Let me help you, absolutely. It's about the Roe versus Wade decision in the United States, the Supreme Court decision, and how there can be better support for victims, survivors of reproductive coercion, people who have been forced to carry children to term that they didn't want to carry in the first place. And I guess to ensure that it doesn't actually happen over here in Australia as it has in America.
You hear about those cases where women are like in violent relationships and they're told not to take any birth control. And I think that's a way of keeping them in that relationship by getting them pregnant and then making them feel like they need to be like the child needs both parents. So that's happening. But it's really sad what's happening over in the US at the moment. It's pretty much a dictatorship. And for the women over there or anyone that's have uteruses, it's like they don't have autonomy over their own body part.
I want to ask Anne Summers, you're a close watcher of American politics. You spent a long time there and you've worked out of the highest office in the land here as an advisor to Paul Keating. Is it possible that this sort of anti-abortion push could actually take fire here in Australia?
Well, I would like to think not, and I do think there are such significant differences between the two countries. I mean, abortion has always been, at least for the last 50 years, an issue that has divided Americans in ways that are quite incomprehensible in this country. I mean, in this country, something like 70 or 80% of people believe abortion should be legal and available. So that's not to deny that there are issues of access, particularly in large states like Queensland and Western Australia.
And affordability, yeah.
And affordability, though it is covered by Medicare in most situations, I believe. There's also access to RU486 to non-surgical forms of abortion increasingly, and that's helpful. But I think the problem with the United States is that, and the thing that makes me so kind of angry about it, is that the Republicans have been saying for 50 years they were going to do this. And then they made it a litmus test in all their judicial appointments, local courts, federal courts, Supreme Court. They finally got the Supreme Court. They made it a litmus test in the pre-selection of all their members of Parliament, members of Congress, state, local, federal level. They said we're going to do it, and they've done it.
So why should anyone be surprised?
Why didn't we stop it? Why didn't we stop it? I mean, I'm just baffled by the attitude of the Democrats and their inability to match the Republicans' evil intent. I just find it extraordinary. But I do not think that the same thing would happen in Australia. I don't know.
Ali, do you?
I just wanted to go back to something that Kat said, because Kat made a very important point here where she said the narrow definition of family and domestic violence. And if we look at coercive control, that needs to be in the definition of family and domestic violence, financial control, including and as well control that forces women to carry to term children that whether it's through a rape or whatever. I think that if we were to, if we want to talk about prevention, we do really need to broaden what we talk about when we talk about family and domestic violence, incorporate all of those different forms of abuse in it.
So reproductive coercion should actually be included as a term, as a recognised form of abuse.
I think,
Is that something
I think
that
we need to look at.
I think in the government's policy?
I've just had that idea now, so maybe I'll... Thanks, Kat.
Ideas, personally.
Jess, did you want to jump in there?
Oh, I just want, I think there's some data in Anne's report that talks about the fact that for so many women, and I'm sorry, the number fails me, but it might not fail you, Anne, that pregnancy is the first time violence occurs. And there was a woman in the book that I wrote who talked about she'd had a really supportive partner, believed in her independence and gender equality, and then the day she announced that she was pregnant, he turned on a dime and became one of the most terrifying coercive controllers and users of physical and sexual violence that I've practically ever heard. Now, there are so many, a lot of people feel like, well, why would you have a baby to him? Why would you do that? It's like, for a lot of women, they won't even find out that their partner is emotionally or physically or sexually abusive until they are pregnant.
And there's a resounding yeses in the room, so clearly a lot of lived experience of that.
And why is this? And why, why does this happen?
And what drives that?
What drives that, and how do we stop it?